Hey guys, time once again for another episode of Day in the Life of Vintage Classic Specialist. So I did drive this car today, probably like literally half a mile or so. I will come back to that shortly. Let's talk about what else happened around the shop today. So the 68 Myers Manx with the mind-blowing metal flake paint continued to get some love today. By the hands of Rafa. So he restored and installed the bulb holders for these lights. We're going to wire these outer ones as the brake lights, and then these, which take a dual filament bulb, these are going to be turn signals and running lights. So that's how we decided to wire it up. But anyway, so restored the bulb holders for these outer ones, which again have like kind of like a beehive looking. I don't think they're Porsche lights, but they kind of have that same look with this kind of almost beehive shape lens on them. The bezels for those are out being chrome plated right now, and then they'll go together. But Rafa made new seals for them. The old ones were all crusty and cracking, so he went ahead and made those up and got those installed. And then pretty much the lights on the back of this car, again, it's a little dark back here, but pretty much the lights are all wired up. So that's largely what he worked on today. So, and as you would expect, the wiring is run all neatly and stuff in here and all connected nicely. So there you go. That's how we roll around here. So these are obviously wires for the engine and so on that will get connected when it goes in, and the starter and all that good stuff. So let's see, trying to think what else he did. I think he worked more on the wiring up front here today too. So yeah, just, starting to, or continuing to work on the wiring here, get it all set up. So I think those are kind of the main things that happened today on this. Mostly the wiring, and then restoring those two rear bulb holders, and there might have been a few other minor things that happened on it today, but that's kind of it. Just wiring her up. So for me, I didn't get a heck of a lot done today because I spent most of the morning calling, emailing, texting people who had messaged me, called me, texted me, just trying to catch up with a bunch of potential customers about their projects, and seeing about lining up a project or two here for us, as we've got some cars that are going to be leaving in the not too distant future. That bus is going to be done pretty soon. The EV is going to be done pretty soon. So we do have some space opening up. If anyone watching this is interested, let me know. But yeah, kind of in the process of talking to different potential customers now about their projects and working up estimates and stuff like that. So not the funnest part of the job of owning and managing a shop like this, but definitely necessary, because without customers, we wouldn't have a business. So there you go. Anyway, so on this one, yeah, I didn't really do a heck of a lot. I worked under the dash a little bit, just tidy things up a little bit. Wasn't super happy with the way that the stereo had been wired by our guy who has been installing our stereos. So I moved a wire or two around there. And what else? Yeah, little things. I finally mounted the grounds for the headlights and stuff here. Those wires were just kind of dangling there. I cleaned, painted, and installed the access covers, so these three here. And the only other, two other major-ish things. One is I cleaned and painted the ashtray, the sort of outer part of the ashtray. I don't know what you call that, the ashtray housing maybe, whatever that thing is, and installed it. And then for some reason we did not have an ashtray for this car. Luckily, Mr. Eddie Collins at Dave and Eddie's Garage to the rescue, he had one. So there it is right there. So clean that up and install that. So that's complete now. I was going to install the glove box, and then I remembered that for some reason with this car, I don't have the hinges for this car, and so I can't install it. So I think I found some on eBay. It doesn't seem like anyone makes reproductions of those for these later Beetles, so I think it's going to be off to eBay to find some of those. So that kind of sucks, because I was hoping to get to install the glove box, and then I remembered, oh damn, I don't have those hinges, and so none of it can go in until I have those hinges. So that was kind of frustrating. The other thing that I did today was, I think I mentioned a day or two ago that I was redoing the scraper. I wasn't happy with it because I had done it a little bit different than the other side. The other side worked amazing, and this side didn't seem like it was going to be amazing. So the other day I pulled it apart and put in a new seal. Again, this outer seal that we're using is split window Beetle seal. Put in a new seal and attached it and everything exactly the same as the other side. Tested it out, and it works awesome now, just like the other side. So I went ahead and put it in, and then put in the inner felt. And so, yeah, other than attaching the window to the regulator at the bottom there, other than that, it's pretty much in. Let's see, what else did I do? Oh, other just minor thing is we actually used to keep the rod right there for the remote control to control opening the door. We actually, a little trick we do is we use a piece of carpet right there, and we basically glue that to the inside of the door, and that's what keeps that rod from rattling around on the inner skin of the door there. So there's a little trick for you guys. That's all it takes. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, and of course it's all covered with a door panel, but works great. Rafa's been doing it for years, and that's how we do it. So yeah, I did that today too. I'll get to this, driving this guy here in a second, for those of you that are waiting. On this one here, Jacob was in this afternoon and continued taking it apart. So he partially disassembled the front beam, so we didn't take much off it, but we went ahead and pulled the shocks off just to lighten it up a bit. These things are pretty heavy and cumbersome when they're all built out like this with the drums and everything. So we took off a few easy things to make it a little lighter. So drums came off, and then we pulled off the tie rods, which they're kind of in the way when you go to remove the front beam. They kind of can get a little hung up on the pan head here. So we went ahead and pulled those off too. And then, yeah, took the beam off the car, disconnected the steering shaft, which was bolted up on it, took that off. Obviously disconnected all the brake lines from it, and then Jacob went ahead and removed the pedal cluster. Pretty much everything on this pan, again, is going on to this bitchin' new one built by our friend Brian Washburn, about an 1/8 of a mile from us. So yeah, including the shift rod, pulled the shift rod out. Someone had painted it gold, which is a pretty interesting choice of color, but whatever, no one sees it. And then the last thing was pulling the rear spring plates out, and they were kind of a bitch to get out. I think that those were probably never removed before when this car was built into a buggy. I don't think they'd been out because both sides were pretty stuck and took a lot of convincing, and there was a lot of like dirt and nastiness and stuff. So I think when this buggy here was built, they didn't bother disassembling this here. They just kind of like, undercoated it and called it a day. So those came out though, because those need to be transferred to the new pan. So that's it for this one. So my first impressions from driving this one, I mean, I had driven it before, if you can call it that, as far as like moving it around the parking lot and stuff like that. But I hadn't really driven it as far as like getting out on the street and, stomping on the throttle and stuff like that. And so I was being a little cautious because I'm not used to the car and I didn't really, know how it would react or anything. This thing is pretty damn quick, I have to say. First impression is this is a quick little V-dub. I don't believe that it's as quick as my red car, the 55 Beetle, that's got a big 2332 in it that made 186 foot-pounds of torque and 231 horsepower at 7,500 RPMs. I don't think this car is as fast as that car, but this thing's pretty damn fast. And feels great on the road. You know, the suspension, everything feels very, very dialed in the short distance that I drove it. It's super smooth. Obviously, it's very quiet. The one thing that I noticed that kind of surprised me was, which in hindsight isn't surprising, but in this car, say you're cruising along and then you're going to come up to a stoplight or whatever, and you let off the gas, the car doesn't really slow down on its own. So normally with a internal combustion car, you let off the gas and the engine is trying to go back to an idle basically. And so the drag of the engine, the compression of the engine will pretty significantly slow the car down. And when I drive V-dubs, I usually downshift as well when I'm going to come to a stop sign or a stoplight. But in this thing, there's no downshifting. And the motor takes, almost no force at all to spin if you're not applying power to it or whatever. So yeah, that was one thing that kind of caught me off guard was you have to use the brakes on this car. I felt like a lot more than you would on a normal internal combustion one. It does have regenerative braking, which I had turned off. So I need to drive it some more with a regen braking turned on, because I think that would probably feel a lot more like a traditional internal combustion engine as far as like getting that effective slowing down when you let off the gas. And I don't know if that's adjustable on here, like how much regenerative braking. I need to talk to Leo about that, and we'll see. But yeah, for sure with the regenerative braking off, when you let off the throttle, it's like, I guess the equivalent would be in an internal combustion engine car would be to let off the throttle, but then also push in the clutch. The car just keeps rolling, and it's not like under power moving, but it's just like kind of freewheeling. And so again, that was kind of one of the main things I noticed was that you have to kind of brake differently in a car like this than you would, a traditional gas powered car. But is it fast? Yes. Is it the fastest Volkswagen I've driven? No, I don't think so. Does it feel great? Yes. Does it look great? We think so, and the customer thinks so too. So that's my first driving impression. I'm going to drive this car a lot more, and there will be video of driving it and so on. So stay tuned for that. I didn't take any today, but again, we got to put a lot of miles on this thing before we hand it over to the customer. So there will definitely be video happening of this thing. So for those of you that don't hate it because it's an EV, you can look forward to those videos. If you hate it because it's an EV, then feel free to not watch those. Anyway, that is it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. We will see you again tomorrow. Bye.